When the stage lights went down, no one could have known that Metallica would never be the same again. September 27, 1986, Sweden. When the bus rolled over, more than just a life ended. The future of rock music was lost in that night's darkness. But the real story began after that tragedy. In the suffocating Los Angeles summer of 1981, drummer Lars Ulrich had one idea in his head: to make music no one had heard before. But no one wanted to hear his sound. "We weren't what the music industry wanted," he would say years later. "They wanted nice hair, pop melodies, radio-friendly songs. But we wanted rage." When he met James Hetfield, it was as if two broken pieces had found each other. There was that pain in James's voice, the deep, raw pain created by his father's abandonment, his mother's loss to cancer, the weight of loneliness. "The first time we played together," James would remember, "I felt the silence. You know, that terrible silence, when there's no one at home, when there's no one left who loves you. Music was the only thing that could fill that silence." When they first saw Cliff Burton, they didn't just see a bassist. He was someone who lived inside the music. His long hair, his carefree manner, but most importantly, someone who used the bass not as an instrument, but as a weapon. Cliff was different, Kirk Hammett would explain. For us, he wasn't just a musician. He was our conscience. But the beginning wasn't easy. This is exactly when everything started to change for Metallica. Record companies were turning them away. Too heavy, too fast, won't play on radio. No one will listen to this. Every rejection made the rage inside James grow. Every closed door increased Lars's determination. "When they told us no," Lars would say, "I heard it as not yet." When their first album, Kill 'Em All, came out in 1983, the music industry was shocked. This wasn't metal, this was war. Every note a scream, every riff a rebellion. But no one. Something changed with Ride the Lightning. Not just the music, they were changing too. James Hetfield would stay in the studio until late at night. Sometimes the crew would find him in the corner, alone with his guitar, crying. "Why are you crying?" Lars had asked one night. James's answer was simple: "Because finally someone is listening." The fans understood them. The kids on the street, those excluded at school, young people cut off from their families. Metallica was their voice. Something magical happened at concerts. When James took the stage, he was no longer that lonely kid. He had become the voice of thousands of lonely kids. When they played Fade to Black for the first time, there were tears in the crowd. This wasn't just a song. This was a confession. It was one of the first metal songs to talk about suicidal thoughts. Some fans wrote letters to James. "This song saved me." That night, sitting in his hotel room reading the letters, James Hetfield cried. "I thought we were just making music," he had said. "I didn't know we were saving people's lives." But the most shocking thing hadn't come yet. When the Master of Puppets album came out in 1986, Metallica had reached the peak. In just 3 years, they had transformed from a garage band to the world's biggest metal group. On the tour bus, For Friends Were Conquering the World. While Cliff Burton played Orion on bass, James would listen, Lars would keep the rhythm, Kirk would smile. "This was our best period," Kirk would say years later. But we didn't know, these were our last beautiful days. September 27, 1986. The concert in Sweden was magnificent. The crowd had gone crazy. Backstage, the Metallica members were tired but happy. "Next stop Copenhagen," Lars had said. "We're getting close to home, boys." When they boarded the tour bus, it was past 2 a.m. Cliff Burton had drawn lots with Lars to choose his favorite bunk, and won. "Today's my lucky day," he had said, laughing. That night they were playing poker on the bus. Cliff was winning, as always. Cliff always won, James would remember. He won at everything. In life, in music. It was 6:30 in the morning. The bus skidded. "Now you're seeing nothing." Icy road. Loss of control. The bus rolled over. Cliff Burton was thrown out the window. The 25-ton bus fell on top of him. One moment. 1 second. One breath. And everything ended. When James Hetfield opened his eyes, He was covered in blood. His head was spinning. The bed next to him was empty. Cliff's bed. "Cliff," he screamed. "Cliff." When he got out of the bus, he saw him. That scene killed something inside James Hetfield that day. "It was the longest moment of my life," he would say years later. Getting off the bus, seeing Cliff, it felt like hours. But actually only seconds had passed. Those seconds were longer than the rest of my life. Lars had collapsed to the ground. He wasn't crying, he couldn't even cry. He just sat there, staring. Kirk Hammett had hidden behind the bus. He was throwing up, both from nausea and from the unbearable weight of grief. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics said Cliff was dead. Died instantly. At least he didn't suffer, they had said. But the real suffering belonged to the survivors. Wait a minute, don't miss this detail. When they returned to San Francisco, Metallica was on the verge of breaking up. James Hetfield wasn't talking. He didn't leave his room for days. He just drank. "Why should we continue?" he had asked Lars. "Without Cliff, what does Metallica mean?" Lars had no. During the funeral, James Hetfield had broken down. He stood at the coffin, trembling. "This is my fault," he had whispered. "I lost the draw. I should have been in that bunk." Cliff's father, Jan Burton, touched James's shoulder. "No, James," he said. "Cliff made his choice. He won that draw. And Cliff would never be with losers." These words brought James to his knees. "But how do we go on?" he asked. Jan Burton's answer was simple. The way Cliff would want. By making music. When they returned to the studio, everything was wrong. Cliff's bass rig was sitting there, empty. His sound was gone. "The first time we went to the studio," Kirk would tell, "we all entered quietly. No one looked at Cliff's spot. But we all felt him." When they called Jason Newsted for an audition, the young bassist was excited. But what he saw when he arrived shocked him. 3 broken people. 3 ghosts. "When I played the first note," Jason would say, Lars started crying. He just turned and left. He came back an hour later, apologized, we continued. But accepting Jason wasn't easy. "You won't believe this, but the real difficulty was just beginning." James Hetfield put Jason through hell. Every mistake, a yell. Every wrong note, an insult. Every effort Jason made was rejected. "You're not Cliff," James would say. "You'll never be." One night, a technician waiting behind the studio door heard it. James was crying. "Why are you being so cruel?" Lars had asked. James's answer was chilling. "Because if I feel sorry for him, I'll have to accept that Cliff is gone." Jason Newsted took it. He swallowed every insult. He accepted every humiliation. "I can't be Cliff," he told James one day. "But I can honor Metallica." These words broke something inside James. That night, for the first time since Cliff's death, he truly cried. Not just tears, a cry that came from within, that tore at his throat, that shattered his soul. And the next day, when he came to the studio, he hugged Jason. "Welcome," he said. "Brother." The 1988 album, And Justice for All, was guilty, painfully guilty. During the album's recording, James Hetfield was drinking heavily. "I don't remember," he would say years later. "I don't remember half of that album. I only know this. Every song was a scream." The song, One, was the story of a soldier who lost everything in war. But in reality, it was the story of a band that had lost everything. When they filmed the music video, James wasn't acting. He was living it. "Darkness imprisoning me, all that I see, absolute horror." These words were the days after Cliff's death. Darkness. Imprisonment. Fear. When the video came out on MTV, it became a phenomenon. It won a Grammy. Metallica had gone mainstream. But was this a victory for James? You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. Success came. Huge stadiums, millions of albums, worldwide fame. But James Hetfield was getting lost. Every night he screamed at thousands on stage, but there was a silence inside him. After every concert, he would lock himself in his room and drink. Until morning. "I couldn't be myself sober," he would say. Or maybe I was truly myself when sober, and I didn't like that person. When Lars found him in the hotel, James was lying on the floor. Bottles were scattered around him. "I can't do this anymore," James had said. "I can't play for Cliff anymore. I can't play for anything anymore." Lars sat down next to him. "You don't have to play for Cliff," he said. "Play for yourself." "But who am I?" James asked. Lars's answer was simple. "You're James Hetfield. And that's enough." When Metallica, Black Album, came out in 1991, old fans felt betrayed. "This isn't Metallica," they screamed. "You sold out." But for James Hetfield, this was a matter of survival. Enter Sandman wasn't underground metal. It was a song that played on the radio that everyone heard. "They called us rock stars," Lars would explain. "But we were just four people trying to survive." The album sold 30 million. They became the world's biggest band. But the void inside James grew. This is exactly when everything really changed for Metallica. In the middle of the tour, James Hetfield exploded on stage. During the concert in Montreal, there was a pyrotechnic accident. James suffered second-degree burns. His left arm was completely burned. He had to leave the stage. The crowd didn't want to see Metallica without James. A riot broke out. Seats were broken. Police intervened. In his hotel room, with his arms bandaged, James Hetfield looked in the mirror. "You know what's the worst?" he had asked the doctor. "I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel anything. As if I was already dead." The doctor was alarmed. "You're depressed," he had said. "You need professional help." But James didn't listen. When the bandages came off, he returned to the stage. But he wasn't the same James anymore. In 1996, they cut their hair. For old fans, this was a death sentence. Metallica is dead, they said. But Metallica wasn't dying. It was transforming. Or losing itself. Or both. The Load and Reload albums were slower, more bluesy. Not metal. James Hetfield was searching for something inside himself. But he didn't know what it was. His relationship with Lars Ulrich deteriorated. Fights began. "You sold us out," Jason Newsted would say. "We're a metal band, not rock stars." James's response was filled with anger. "Who are you to tell me what Metallica is?" The studio fell silent. Jason lowered his head and walked out. That night, James stayed in his room. He drank. But this time something was different. When he looked in the mirror, he saw his father. The weak man who abandoned him, who ran from him. "No," he whispered. "No, I'm not him." He broke the bottle. And for the first time in 20 years, James Hetfield truly decided to get sober. In 2001, Metallica almost ceased to exist. Jason Newsted left the band. "I can't take it anymore," he had said. "For 15 years, you treated me like a second-class citizen. Enough." James didn't even try to stop him. And then, during studio recordings, he exploded. Big fight with Lars. James yelled, broke things, threw his guitar to the ground. "I'm not here," he screamed. "I'm not here anymore." And he left. Slammed the door, got in his car, drove. No one knew where he went. But the most shocking thing was what James did at the hotel. He picked up the phone. Called a rehab center. "I need help," he said. That strong James Hetfield wasn't in his voice anymore. There was just a broken person. "Your name?" A pause. "James," he said. "Just James." He stayed in rehab for 7 months. For 7 months, Metallica waited for him. Lars called every day. "When you're ready, you come back," he said. "We're here." In therapy sessions, James Hetfield talked about his real pain for the first time. His father's abandonment. His mother's death. Cliff's loss. Everything he had suppressed for years. The therapist asked, "Why is music so important to you?" James's answer was simple. "Because music doesn't abandon me." "But you abandon music," said the therapist. James stopped. He had thought about it this way for the first time. "Yes," he said. "I did abandon it." When he returned in 2003, there was a new James. They recorded the Saint Anger album. Raw, unprocessed, painful. The album wasn't perfect. The production was terrible, but it was real. "This album was our therapy," Lars would say. Every note was a confession. Documentaries were filmed. Some kind of monster. The cameras saw everything. James's breakdown. Lars's fear. The band's near death. But also their rebirth. In one scene, James breaks down in the studio. "I can't do it," he says. "I don't know how to do it anymore." Lars sits next to him. "We'll learn together," he says. And in that moment, Metallica truly became a band. For the first time, when Robert Trujillo joined the band, the atmosphere was different. He didn't experience the pain that Jason had lived through, because Metallica was different now. More mature, more fragile, more real. "They treated me like a brother," Robert would say. From day one. James hugged him. "Welcome," he said. But this time, really welcome. When Death Magnetic came out in 2008, the old Metallica had returned. Fans went crazy. Thrash metal was back. But it wasn't just about music anymore. This was a celebration. Celebrating survival. When James Hetfield took the stage, he wasn't drinking anymore. He was sober. He was himself. "When I was 20, he would say in an interview, I wanted to die. When I'm 50, I want to live." This transformation, that's our real success. In 2016, it was the 30th anniversary of Cliff Burton's death. The band went to Sweden. They visited that crash site. There, on the side of the road, was a small memorial. Guitars, flowers, letters left by fans. James Hetfield knelt down. He stayed there for a long time. Lars stood in the distance, crying. Kirk left a note. "You never left us, Cliff. We're with you in every note." The band's camera crew had filmed that moment. James kneeling in front of Cliff's memorial. His broken voice. "I'm sorry," he had whispered. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." But then something changed in his face. He stood up, wiped his tears. "But I protected your legacy," he said. "I protected the music. And I protected myself." When the pandemic hit in 2020, the whole world stopped. Concerts were canceled. Tours were postponed. For the first time in 40 years, Metallica wouldn't be on stage for this long. James Hetfield was at home with his family. In an interview, he was asked, "Does this stopping scare you?" He smiled. "It used to," he said. "Stopping used to kill me. Because when I stopped, I had to think. And thinking hurt. But now stopping is a gift. Because I'm at peace with myself now." In 2024, Metallica is still on tour. Lars and James in their 60s are still on stage, still playing that rage. But now that rage is different. This is the rage of survival. Loss, pain, addiction, depression. The rage of standing up after all of it. When the 72 Seasons album came out, James said this. "This album is about the first 18 years of my childhood. Because those years shaped me. And 50 years later, I'm still processing that pain. But now that pain doesn't control me. I control it." James Hetfield was asked in an interview, "Why do you still continue?" He smiled. "Because in 1986, Cliff left us something. A legacy. That legacy wasn't just music, it was living. Living despite the pain. Living despite the loss. And one more thing," he added. His voice cracked. "Because every time we play Master of Puppets on stage, Cliff is there. At every concert, in every note. He never left." Lars came closer. "We're not just a band," he said. "We're a family. Broken, patched up, suffering family. But we're still standing. And our music," James finished, "is our wound. And at the same time, it's our healing." In 2023, Cliff Burton's bass rig is on display in a museum. Every day, thousands of people come, look, touch. A young girl touches the glass with her hand. "Why is this so important?" her mother asks. The girl answers, "Because this is the symbol of never giving up." Outside the museum, on the street, a young person is listening to Fade to Black with headphones. There are tears on their cheeks. But there's also a smile. Because James Hetfield's words reach them. "No one but me can save myself, but it's too late." But no, it's never too late. Metallica proved that. Every concert, every note, every life, Kirk Hammett is watching a young guitarist at a street concert. The kid is playing Enter Sandman. There are wrong notes, the tempo is off. But that rage is there. That passion is there. Kirk approaches.
"You play well," he says.
The kid's eyes open wide. Are you Kirk Hammett? Kirk smiles.
"Yes.
But when I was your age, I was playing on the street too. No one was listening to me. But I kept playing." Why? The kid asks. Kirk's answer is simple. Because music saved me. And now it's saving others. Lars Ulrich is talking with his son. "Dad," his son says, "why do you still play? You've made enough money. You're famous enough. Why don't you stop?" Lars thinks for a long time. Because he finally says, "When we lost Cliff, I learned something. Life is too short. And if there's something you can do, you have to do it. Because there might not be a tomorrow."
Cliff didn't get to see tomorrow.
But we did. And the only way to honor him is to live every day. To truly live it. Robert Trujillo is playing a new riff in the studio. James is listening.
Smiling.
"That's good," he says. "Really good." Robert is surprised. "Really?" "Because James raises his hand.
"No.
It's good. Trust yourself." "I trust you." Robert's eyes fill with tears. Because years ago, James didn't say these words to Jason. But now he's saying them. Because he's a different person now. A better person. At a concert, a girl in the front of the crowd is crying. James sees her. He stops singing. He leans down. "Are you okay?" he asks. The girl nods. "This song," she says, "saved me when I lost my mother." James's eyes fill. He puts down his microphone. He touches the girl's hand. "I lost my mother too," he says. "I know what it feels like. But look. You're here. You're alive. You're strong." The girl cries. James cries. The crowd cries. Because this isn't just a concert. This is healing. Metallica's story isn't a finished story. It's still being written. Every new fan adds a page to this story. And most importantly, this story proves that you can fall. You can lose. You can break. But if you have music, if you have a reason, if you have people to fight alongside you, you can stand up. James Hetfield is sitting backstage one night. He receives a letter from a fan. "Dear James, I was thinking about suicide. But I listened to Fade to Black. And I realized that you went through the same pain. And you're alive. If you could do it, I can too. Thank you. You saved my life." After reading the letter, James looks up.
He looks at the sky.
"Cliff," he whispers, "I hope you're proud. We protected your legacy." Lars Ulrich is speaking in a documentary. People ask us, "What's your greatest achievement?" Grammys? Millions of albums? Hall of Fame? He shakes his head.
"No.
Our greatest achievement is waking up every morning and being able to say, 'I'm here today.' Because a few times, we weren't going to be here. But we are. And that's worth more than everything." Kirk Hammett is tuning his guitar. A young person asks, "What's your biggest regret?" Kirk thinks, "Not telling Cliff I love you enough. Because when he died, there were so many things left unsaid. But now I tell everyone I love. Because there might not be a tomorrow." A pause. "But I'm not sorry. Because that pain made me a better person." Robert Trujillo is adjusting his bass. "What's it like being in Metallica?" he's asked. He smiles. "It's like being part of a family. They're not perfect. Sometimes we fight. Sometimes we don't agree. But in the end, we're there for each other. And that's more important than music." Metallica's story isn't a finished story. It's still being written. Every new fan adds a page to this story. And most importantly, this story proves that you can fall. You can lose. You can break. But if you have music, if you have a reason, if you have people to fight alongside you, you can stand up. James Hetfield is sitting backstage one night. He receives a letter from a fan. "Dear James, I was thinking about suicide. But I listened to Fade to Black. And I realized that you went through the same pain. And you're alive. If you could do it, I can too. Thank you. You saved my life." After reading the letter, James looks up. He looks at the sky. Cliff, he whispers, I hope you're proud. We protected your legacy. Lars Ulrich is speaking in a documentary. People ask us, what's your greatest achievement? Grammys? Millions of albums? Hall of Fame? He shakes his head.
No.
Our greatest achievement is waking up every morning and being able to say, I'm here today. Because a few times, we weren't going to be here. But we are. And that's worth more than everything. Kirk Hammett is tuning his guitar. A young person asks, what's your biggest regret? Kirk thinks, not telling Cliff I love you enough. Because when he died, there were so many things left unsaid. But now I tell everyone I love. Because there might not be a tomorrow.
A pause.
But I'm not sorry. Because that pain made me a better person. Robert Trujillo is adjusting his bass. What's it like being in Metallica? He's asked. He smiles. It's like being part of a family. They're not perfect. Sometimes we fight. Sometimes we don't agree. But in the end, we're there for each other. And that's more important than music.